Welcome back to Inquiry! It's 2 months until the Fabled pre-release, and yes, it's already time for some speculation and prediction. Since Fabled is the beginning of set rotation and has been confirmed that over half of the set will be reprints, we've crunched the numbers from the previous sets to establish the likely rarity split and the character, actions, songs, items and location split for the upcoming set. From previous sets, we know the total number of different rarities will be the same for Fabled, as this is unchanging across all sets. And based on the character, action, item and location percentages from sets 1 to 4, we know what percentage of those will be the reprinted cards. Whereas the percentage split of the new cards will be based on character, action, item and location averages from all 8 previous sets. So from applying the stats from the previous sets, we now have an overview of the Fabled set. We know there'll be 242 cards in total, since the iconic Mickey is number 242. We know 204 of those cards will be common to legendary, and the remaining 38 will be the 18 epics, 18 enchanteds, and 2 iconics. So far for the epics, we only have Elsa Snow Queen confirmed, and for the enchanteds, Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard, Mulan Considerate Diplomat, and what looks to be an enchanted Lilo Galactic Warrior. And finally, for the iconics, Mickey and Minnie. We also have confirmation that the Set Champs promo will be Maleficent Monstrous Dragon. This could also be an enchanted similar to how Hiro Hamada from Arcasia's Island had an enchanted and then a different Set Champs promo enchanted. Of the 204 common to legendary cards, we are predicting that 60% of them will be reprinted cards and 40% will be new cards. Meaning for the reprints there'll be 43 commons, 33 uncommons, 32 rares, 8 super rares, and 7 legendaries. You'll notice there are no super rare actions, items, or locations in this table. This is because they don't exist in sets 1 to 4 apart from a whole new world, which has already been confirmed not to be in Fabled. Therefore, the remaining super rare slots were moved into rare for our predictions. However, these spare cards could easily be moved to extra super rare character reprints, which could be more likely based on available cards, but I'll get into that later in the video. And for the new cards, there'll be 29 commons, 22 uncommons, 19 rares, 7 super rares, and 5 legendaries, totaling the 204 cards of the set, and like I mentioned before, leaving the remaining 38 to be alternate versions of some of the 204, with epics, enchanted, and iconics. For each rarity, we have then split it evenly as possible for each ink, starting with Amber. Based on our calculations and the baseline prediction of 60% of the set being reprints, Amber will have 20 of those reprints, only one of which being a legendary, which I do believe will be Rapunzel. Out of the 8 possible Amber legendaries, I really think Rapunzel is most likely. However, cards like Mufasa, Kida and Minnie Mouse could also have a chance. One Amber legendary I definitely don't think it will be is Stitch, Carefree Surfer, who, like Rapunzel, is also from the first chapter, and that's because one of the cards that we 100% know is getting reprinted is Rockstar Stitch, which, based on our prediction values, will be the only Amber super rare with a reprint, which means fantastic cards like Piglet, Ariel and Chernobog will miss out on their chance to be reprints in Fabled. Next, let's talk about the 7 rare Amber cards I think will earn a reprint. One is already confirmed in Ariel Singing Mermaid, who features on one of the new Fabled starter decks. So that leaves 6 slots to predict, and I've gone for some bodyguards in Baloo and Pluto Determined Defender. With Mickey and Minnie as featured characters for Fabled, it's only right Pluto would be involved, and it wouldn't shock me at all for us to see Pluto getting enchanted this set, as we've never seen an enchanted Pluto. Being a Floodborn as well, it would make a lot of sense for Pluto-friendly Pooch to take up one of those uncommon Amber predictions, to act as a shift target. Anyway, back to the Amber rares, and another prediction will be Moana of Motunui. Having princess synergy fits well with the fantasy theme of Fabled, and as we'll get onto, I've predicted a lot of princesses to get reprints. Finally, for the Amber rares, we have room for 1 item, 1 location, and 1 action or song. So these are my picks. All round great cards that help give Amber flexibility and further identity. Moving swiftly on to some uncommon predictions, like I mentioned Pluto, also Giulietta Madrigal, Gaston, and Mickey Mouse True Friend. One prediction I'd like to make is that we have another possibly alternate art epic version of this Mickey that again doesn't have the flavour text, so you can get it signed by Mickey himself at Disney World or Disneyland. Also, one final uncommon would be an action, and I think that'll be 99 Puppies. Puppy decks have had a lot of additions recently, so it would make a lot of sense to keep this card around to stay on the theme of those decks. Finally, for Amber, we have some common predictions in Simba to synergize with the Pride Lands reprint, Stitch to go with the Rockstar reprint as that needs a shift target, Sebastian, as with Ariel confirmed to get a reprint, it would make sense to bring him back as well as Flounder, but we'll get to him later, Snow White and Minnie Mouse. We already know from the iconic tease that the new Mickey is a Ruby Floodborn card of some kind. I would predict that the mini iconic will also be Floodborn but in Amber, so it makes sense to reprint a 2-cost Inkable Minnie Mouse to be a shift target. Finally, Hakuna Matata would be my uncommon action song reprint for Amber. Let's move on to Amethyst, and like Amber, only room for one legendary reprint. I've gone for Yen Sid, and it'll become clear why I've gone for him as we move on to the commons and uncommons. But this by no means is a confident prediction, as there's other Amethyst legendaries like Ursula, Elsa and Jafar that are all deserving. It's also worth noting that reprints don't necessarily have to be good cards. It's just as likely we see reprints of less meta impactful cards, but still viable, like for example Fairy Godmother. My pick for the super rare spot for Amethyst is Belle. This card's fairly iconic in Lorcana already, having its own official playmat. It also features in the new binder coming out, and I've also predicted a Rose Lantern reprint for the commons. Onto the rares, and there's some really meta cards in Amethyst rares that I don't think we'll be seeing in the future, like Fox and Rabbit. I think these cards have had their time, and I'd probably say that's a consensus among the Lorcana community. So I've gone for some less impactful reprints in the form of Jafar, Keeper of Secrets, and the Dr. Facelia shift package with Remarkable Gentleman and Agent Provocateur. As for a rare item, I've picked Lamp. I think Lamp is one of those cards that's potential has only really been discovered in recent months, so I think it will get a life extension and another chance to shine. Onto the Amethyst uncommons and commons. We actually have 2 confirmed already in Elsa Snow Queen and Honey Wizard Winnie the Pooh, which leaves 8 character spots, and I've gone for Pinocchio, Jafar Lamp Thief, Fairy Godmother, and Brooms. Yes, with my predicted return of Yen Sid, I'm calling it now. Brooms are back in Fabled, as well as the Sorcerer's Tower, and once we get onto Steel, we'll talk about Brooms again. I just think with Amethyst presumably losing the bounce package, Brooms have a real chance of sticking around. Which I think leaves room for one final uncommon and one final common, and that's Befuddle and Friends on the other side. The reason I've picked Friends is despite it being a meta card since its release, I do actually think it's a fair card and fits Amethyst perfectly. I also think this could be a card that receives an epic in Fabled, which would be awesome. Right, it's time for Emerald. I actually found predicting Emerald reprints quite difficult, as I think the cards might be a little too good for reprints, if that makes sense, as they've already been prevalent in the meta. But let's get into it, and you can tell me what you think in the comments. For the legendary prediction, I've gone for Ursula, Deceiver of All. This may be controversial, but I actually am one of the few that thinks this card is fair. It's only cards like Strength, Storm, and Sudden Shield that make it overpowered at times. And spoiler, I'm not predicting for any of those to get reprints. Other legendaries this could easily be is Hades Double Dealer and Milo Thatch. I think these are really fun cards that haven't really been able to shine, so could get a reprint. As for the super rare, I've gone for the Queen Disguised Peddler. I really like this card and I think it's quite unique, so I'd love to see it come back. Other options would be Lyle Tiberius Rourke, or maybe keep Prince Philip around, as there's still a shift target for him from Azurite Sea. Time for the rare emeralds, and I've picked 4 very meta cards, which is probably wrong because I don't think Ravensburger are just going to reprint good cards, and they'll almost definitely be sewing in some less meta cards or more vanilla cards like Honey Wizard. But anyway, I've picked Cricky, Morph, Cursed Merfolk, and the Muses. Cricky is one of the best Emerald cards, and without him, Emerald seemingly becomes so much worse. And that's the same for Morph. Emerald has a Floodborn identity in many ways, and Morph facilitates that. Morph is one of my predictions I'm actually very confident in. As for Cursed Merfolk, this is another card that's a staple in Emerald decks, and suits the Emerald discard identity. Much like Flynn Rider, who I've also predicted to come back in one of the uncommon slots. As for the Muses, I'm not sure on this one at all. I think this card's a bit too strong and maybe shouldn't have Ward. So yeah, not sure on this one. Possibly more likely it will be a first chapter rare like Cusco or Genie. Now Emerald we predicted would get 2 rare action spots, and we've gone for Bippity Boppity Boo. We've seen this art is getting its own playmat upon the Fabled release, which looks incredible. So it'd make a lot of sense for this card to return, as well as one of the more iconic modern Disney songs, we don't talk about Bruno. Hopefully it's a bit of a trend to see these really playable cards with enchanted versions to see reprints, so people can keep using their beloved cards. So let's try and fly through the rest of the Emerald predictions. Uncommons, I've gone for Kit Cloud Kicker, Ursula Deceiver, and Pegasus Cloud Racer. Pegasus I can almost guarantee as a gift for Hercules has already been confirmed with this incredible promo card. As for Ursula and Kit, Emerald decks are nothing without these cards. I really hope they both come back, but then again, maybe Ravensburger are looking to really shake things up and not leave too many of these staples within rotation. As for the rest of the commons, we have Ratigan, Zazu, Ray, and one that I'd like to suggest is almost guaranteed in Mickey Mouse Steamboat Pilot, as this card's definitely getting an epic. This must be the art for the Steamboat Pilot on the Fabled pack, right? Finally for Emerald, I've gone for Strike a Good Match, Hidden Inkcaster, and Hidden Cove to end off commons. Hidden Cove is one of the better locations in the game, and once Diablo Devoted Herald is rotated out, becomes a much more reasonable card within the meta. Into Ruby now, starting off with a confirmed legendary in Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, which like I briefly mentioned before, is going to be a Fabled Set Champs Enchanted. Whether it'll have another alternate art enchanted within the set, I'd say probably not. That Ruby enchanted spot will perhaps go to a card we'll talk about in a minute. As for the super rare spot, there were loads of cards to choose from like Medusa, Tremaine, and Prince Eric. But I really do think it's going to be Flynn Rider Frenemy. Maximus Team Champion's ability is a very similar card to Flynn's and is a Shimmering Skies card, so is staying after the arrival of Fabled. For this reason and the clear synergy between these cards both thematically and in terms of ability, I think Flynn's getting that reprint in Fabled for sure. Okay, it's time for the rares, and I'm starting with a rare song which there's only room for one of, and guess what? It's Be Prepared! Come on, this card has to come back. We need board wipes in the game to keep the meta grounded, and Be Prepared has always been the best way to do this. But that's not my only prediction. Be Prepared is getting an enchanted in Fabled, or at least an epic. I really do think we're going to see alternate art for this card, and I can't wait for it. Baker's going to lose his mind. As for character rares, I've gone for another first chapter staple in Maui, Hero to All, so people can keep using those enchanteds, also Shere Khan and LeFou. As for the rest of Ruby, there was no real reprint choices that stood out to me, but I've picked a Queen of Hearts shift line, Mother Gothel to synergize a bit with that Rapunzel reprint, a Hey Hey because, well, Hey Hey needs to be in Fabled, Gaston, Stitch, Della Duck, Mulan, and Hercules. For the other actions and items, I'm predicting Brawl will make a return. With Ruby seemingly losing Sisu removal options, I think this has to stay. Also Medallion Weights and Vitalisphere, as these two cards are both regularly used in Ruby decks and it'd be a shame to lose them. But again, Ravensburger might be looking to do the opposite, to make other deck building options and opportunities. So we flew through Ruby, let's get on to Sapphire. With our 60% reprint prediction, it meant reprints would have 7 legendaries, where new cards would have 5. So one ink would be getting 2 reprint legendaries, and we believe it will be Sapphire. Between sets 1 and 4, there's only one non-character legendary, and that's Lucky Dime. So I think Lucky Dime's going to be back for Fabled, alongside one of its more synergistic cards, no, not Tamatoa, Aerial Treasure Collector. It could be Tamatoa as well, but I've predicted there will only be 2 super rare slots for Sapphire, and I think Cogsworth Grandfather Clock or Anna are more likely. And for this reason, I've picked Cogsworth. As for the other legendary, I've gone for Hades Infernal Schemer. This one is definitely a hard prediction, as I think this is one of those examples of a card that it might be time to see less of, as it's been a staple for so long. Other options I think it's likely we might see are the Queen Diviner, Belle Strange but Special, and Alice Growing Girl. But for now, I've gone for Hades. Let me know in the comments what you think they'll do with the Sapphire legendary reprints, as this is the ink that I didn't think had any obvious or favoured choice. Okay, on to the rares, and for my predictions, I've gone for Mama Odie, Prince Philip, and Triton. And for the action and item slots, I've gone Let It Go and Maurice's Workshop. Maurice's Workshop is such an important draw engine for item decks, I think this is a strong prediction. And with Let It Go having that incredible promo, I'd like to see that card stay around too. I think this card's actually quite fair and important to keep Sapphire with some removal. I'm noticing now with my Sapphire predictions, I've definitely gone for too many meta cards, and it's not really that likely all of these cards will stay, but I would guess some will. I've also predicted Great Stone Dragon and how far I'll go to get reprints. And something that's going to be very controversial, Nick Wilde and Porpsicle. We all know how crazy good Porpsicle is, but I honestly think now Fortisphere is banned, and based on my prediction the first chapter Tamatoa is getting rotated out, this card's not as broken as it once was. These Sapphire decks kind of need it, or if it does get rotated out, need something similar. Just imagine how much worse cards like Happy as a Clam, Scrooge, and Belle would get without Porpsicle. And none of these cards are extremely game breaking at the moment, so why not keep Porpsicle around? You might disagree though, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on Porpsicle potentially staying in the comments. As for the rest of Sapphire, I've got Develop Your Brain, another very important Sapphire card, also Scrooge, Uncle Moneybags, Flounder to go with the Ariel and Sebastian, the first chapter Grandma Tala, which I think's a great card, Anna Braving the Storm, Hans and Olaf for a bit of Frozen theme, and 2 more commons in Cruella de Vil, who appears on the Fabled artwork here, so who knows, could be getting a new Floodborn card, so it makes sense to predict a low-cost Cruella to be a shift target. And finally, Grandma Tala, which I know is another extremely meta card, but I couldn't really guess just some random vanilla Sapphire card, so maybe an alternative would be another Mickey Mouse in Mickey Mouse Detective, which now I think about it is much more likely than Tala. Okay, coming towards the end now with Steel, starting with a common and legendary combo I think will get reprints in Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, and Beloved Outlaw to be its shift target. This card's always been really strong but also fair, and hasn't enchanted, so I think this is the pick for the Steel legendary. I think the Beast is too good to get a reprint, and all of the other Steel legendaries from sets 1 to 4 are just bad, and I'd rather not see any of them get reprints. As for super rares, we have 1 confirmed in Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, and by our baseline prediction, that would only leave 1 super rare slot left for Steel. I had to decide between Cinderella Stouthearted and Ariel Sonic Warrior, and I went for Cinderella. I do think there's a world where both of these cards get reprints, but I wanted to stick to predictions based on the set calculations rather than going with my gut. As for the rest of Steel, we're back to predicting some brooms to go with our Amethyst brooms, Sorcerer's Tower, and Yen Sid. And that also fills up a rare slot with Mickey Mouse, who also has broom synergy, as well as being an iconic card in Lorcana. Other rares, I've got Hercules accompanied by a nice shift target common, John Silver, which is a great card that never really saw the location support it deserved, and this Captain Hook that has Fire the Cannon synergy, which I've also predicted to make a Fabled return. As for the action song rare slot, I've gone Grab Your Sword as a bit of Steel removal, as like I mentioned before, I'm predicting Strength of Raging Fire and Let the Storm Rage On to be rotated out. Other Steel predictions, we have a shift target for Cinderella Stouthearted and 1 for Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, as well as another Robin Hood and this first chapter Beast. Lilo Galactic Warriors here as a confirmed card. This isn't 100% confirmed, but it's very likely and I'm 90% sure it is this card. And finally, I've gone for this Simba card and Mouse Armor to finish off our predictions for Steel. Moyen will definitely be happy with that Mouse Armor. So that's it. We just predicted 123 cards of Fabled and had a lot of fun along the way. We took some stabs at what might end up becoming epics and enchanteds, but who's to say for sure? I want to hear in the comments what your predictions for Fabled are. I'm sure there's plenty of options I overlooked. Also, out of the reprints, what do you want to see get epics and enchanteds? As more news comes out for Fabled, I'll be covering it the best I can on this channel. So come back for those videos. This set's going to be a big one, and it's so exciting. Today's video's been a bit of a longer one, so if you've made it this far, I just wanted to say a big thanks for watching. And if you've enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next time for another video.